Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I am an ordained minister, a kirtan artist and musician, amongst other things. And today I wanted to do a second talk on what films and movies can teach us about spirituality. So as usual, before I get into the talk, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon and everyone who makes these talks possible without a paywall. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you want to become a patron, check out the links below. All right, so last week we had part 1. I definitely recommend watching that if you missed it. But here we have part 2. This was an insight that came to me while I was doing one of these talks a couple of weeks ago. And it was part of a longer talk, but I wanted to draw it out here in case you didn't finish that talk, or maybe you just missed that, because I felt like it was a pretty powerful insight. So the insight was that we often hear that everything is love. God is love. And this world is an expression of His love. And that can get very hard to accept when we look around and we see hate, we see violence, we see discrimination, we see injustice. It gets very hard to say, okay, how in the world could this be an expression of love? So as I was giving this talk a couple of weeks ago, the insight came to me that this is very much like a film in the following way. If you've ever watched Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings series, and you've seen interviews with him, and you've seen behind the scenes footage of the making of that film, Peter Jackson was very passionate about this project. It was something that it was an expression of his love. Okay, making the Lord of the Rings. And that seemed to be very contagious. I watched the whole DVD of behind the scenes footage, and everyone who they interviewed seemed really legitimately excited about the project. This wasn't at the beginning, this was either partway through or at the end of the project. So his excitement was contagious, his love. So everyone got together for years and years and years on this project, and they made this film together out of passion and love. And yet, when we view the film, do we just see passion and love? I mean, you could say in a sense, if you're a movie lover, you say, wow, that film blew me away. I can tell that that was made with passion and love. But the film itself depicts every emotion, right? Hate, love, triumph, defeat, good, evil. It's an interplay of opposites. And because of that, it's a good film. It's good cinema. It's interesting to watch, isn't it? Again, please put your personal feelings about Lord of the Rings aside. I'm not interested whether you personally like that film. It's just an example. Think of any film that you really love, that the director or the producer was extremely passionate about making and sharing, and then use that instead of Lord of the Rings. I really don't have any attachment to that. This is just a particular film that I know that the filmmaker was very passionate about making. So the point is that Lord of the Rings itself, the film itself, is an expression of love and passion. You could say he did it for the money or whatever it is, but I don't believe that. If you see him talk about it in interviews and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, I don't think he was motivated just by money. You could say maybe in the prequels or other films, maybe he's just cashing in. I don't know. But certainly that original film and series this was a passion project for him. He was doing it out of his love for that story and that world and wanting to share that with others. So the film itself is an expression of love, but the film depicts not just love. This is very much analogous to what we're experiencing on this plane of reality as human beings. We experience love, we experience hate, we experience lack, we experience abundance, we experience everything, all the opposites that are possible. And it seems like it's not just love. It seems like there's good and evil, right and wrong. There's this dynamic tug of war going on. And that's what makes it interesting, actually. That's what you might say we come here for, that experience, because as spirit or soul, this is an interesting place to grow and to learn and to experience things. Again, humans pay to go see the movies. If humans didn't want to experience any drama or see any interplay of good and evil, why would we pay money? Why would we spend time, hours, sitting in a cinema to observe these things? So to say that the observer in us does not want to experience these things is a lie. That is a flat out lie, okay? Humans enjoy this interplay, this dynamic interplay, and that's why we're here. So this is the best analogy I have so far of explaining this relationship with reality. Your reality, despite all the ups and downs, despite all the struggles, despite all the seeming injustice and unfairness and inequality, is ultimately an expression of pure love. Just like when we watch the film Lord of the Rings and we see evil and we see defeat and we see triumph and we see good and we see lovable characters and we have characters that we hate. All of this is ultimately the expression of love. So my hope is that understanding this, you can walk through life with a different vision of what's happening. And in my third talk, I'd like to express a little bit about how films might help us relate better with others. So until then, namaste and have a beautiful day.